And welcome to this video on the RC Biker channel. Thanks very much for joining in. I hope you can hear me over the sound of lovely Nitro Engines. What a cracking sound that is. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to break in your Kyosho Nitro Engine using the 5-tank standard break-in procedure. If you haven't already started it yet, please watch the previous video and I'll pop a link down in the description below of how to start it for the first time, including a look over the car, its specifications and starting it up for the very first time. So for the first tank then, you just need to let your engine sing just on a slightly richer setting on that high-speed needle for one full fuel tank. You need to let it idle for the whole tank. It should be running a little bit rich, and you should know that because you should have a bit of blue smoke coming out of the exhaust and also a little bit of fuel spitting out of the exhaust as well. Let me show you it running, and then it will allow the engine to cool down for about 5 minutes and then move on to tank number 2. Okay, so we've just done tank number 1 of the break-in process. I just allowed the engine to sit idling for one full fuel tank, as you saw there. Now, I stopped the engine before the fuel tank ran completely out. So I just blocked the exhaust. You don't really want the engine to run completely out of fuel, because as the fuel gets towards the end, as the fuel tank runs out, the engine starts running a little bit lean, and we don't really want that on a new engine. So now I'm going to refill the tank using exactly the same fuel, and we're going to move on to tank 2 of the break-in process. Now for tank 2 of the break-in process, we're going to be driving the car around in slow driving, using no more in general than quarter throttle. The occasional burst is fine because that will clear the excess fuel out of the pipes, but we want to be using on average no more than quarter throttle. So you're going to be needing your radio transmitter for this one, so we're going to turn this on, and if you're not already, you need to make sure you're in an open area that's suitable to run these. Just going to check the electronics again, and I'm going to start the engine up and do a full tank of slow driving in figure of 8 circles. Now you should be getting a lot of blue smoke out of the exhaust, because it is running nice and rich at the moment, which is good. Just lots of bursts of that throttle, getting the fuel around the engine. And you'll notice the longer you do this for, the better the engine will run. Carry on doing this then for the whole of tank 2, and when it's done we'll move on to tank number 3. See you in a moment when that's done. Okay, great, so just did that for the whole of tank 2, took about 10 minutes, not that long. Now I'm going to move on to tank number 3. So tank number 3, I've just allowed the engine to cool for about 5 minutes since I finished tank 2. Just going to refill the engine now. Now you remember on tank 2 we weren't exceeding quarter throttle. Well, on this tank we're going to be getting up to around half throttle, so a little bit more throttle, so you're going to need a little bit more space, and just gently accelerating up to half throttle, easing off. Again, lots of blue smoke coming out the exhaust. I have just leaned the engine just slightly, just to allow the engine to get to a slightly higher RPM. So let's restart it, and just a reminder, full tank, not exceeding half throttle on this one. So let's go. Okay, here goes then. So, whole tank not exceeding half throttle. That's half. Up to half and just coasting. Up to half and just coasting. That's lovely. And we're going to do that for the whole of tank number 3. Tank. Again, I've just allowed the engine to cool off for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now we're on to tank number 4. So tank 4 is even more exciting. So again, refill the tank. This is a 125cc fuel tank, and we're doing each tank in around 10 to 15 minutes roughly. So you do need a little bit of patience with these things, and but it is worth it because it will last. You know, at the end of the day, it will last. Okay. So we don't need to prime the engine between tanks because obviously it's just been running. So we're on to tank 4. Tank 4 is gently accelerating up to about 3/4 throttle now. About 3/4 throttle, and then just easing off and coasting it. Occasional full throttle blast is absolutely fine. Just don't go crazy with it. Just about wearing the engine in gently. So let's turn everything on again. All the way up to 3/4 and just easing off. Up to 3/4 and just easing off. If you need to at this stage, you can lean the engine out a little bit just to allow it to reach a higher RPM. In for tank number 4, and I'll catch you in about 15 minutes when we're ready to move on to the final tank of this braking procedure of this beautiful little 1/8 scale buggy. Catch you in a minute. Okay, great, so we're now on to the 5th and final tank of the braking procedure. But by all means, just because you've done 5 tanks doesn't mean you can then thrash the hell out of it. 5 tanks is still very new. So, you know, we still want to take it easy for a few tanks thereafter. And now we're on to the 5th and final tank. Okay, so the 5th tank is accelerating up to full throttle now, holding it for a second and then just easing off. Okay, and now as you go through this tank, you can also start to do a little bit of gentle tuning for performance and start to lean the engine out a little bit as well. So restart him up then, and then we'll move on to tank 5. So turning on the power always helps. And here we go then, tank number 5. Like I say, towards the end of this tank I am going to give it a little bit of tuning up to full throttle, hold it for a second and then just ease off. Now in this tank I'm just going to start to lean out that higher needle just a little bit. Firstly, to help us start to get some performance out of the buggy. Secondly, just to help it reach a slightly higher RPM. So that's that tank done then. So the engine is now all broken in, and on the last tank there I just gave it a very little tune, so it's now ready for bashing. I'm going to give it a little wipe down, because during braking, when it's running quite rich, it can tend to make stuff quite oily, so I'll give it a little wipe down. And also I tend to leave the body shell off as well, unless the manufacturer recommends it, they're putting it on. I know Traxxas say that you should put the body shell on, but I tend to leave it off, because otherwise it gets covered in all the oil and old fuel and stuff during braking. But it's all tuned up roughly. I've left it a little bit rich because it's still new. So I hope this video helps you to get your new Kyosho car running properly. If you have any questions, pop them down in the comment section below. There is more than one method that you can use to break in your engine, so don't be afraid to question it and go for a different method. That's fine, as long as you do something along the lines of what we've done today. So if the video has been helpful, please make sure you hit the red subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and I'd love to read a comment from you, what you thought of this, down in the comment section below. Join us over on Facebook. See you guys next time when we bash this thing. Bye for now.